Perek Chaf, Mishnah Beis. Noisnim mayim al gabi hashmorim. We are allowed to place water al gabi shmorim over dregs of wine, bishvil sheyitzolu, in order that it could become clear. Now there's two pshatim what this line of the Mishnah means. Imagine you've got a barrel and you've got a mesh, sort of a strainer over the barrel. What we're doing over here is pouring water either onto the dregs, the shmorim, which are on top of the mesh, or according to the second pshat, the shmorim are actually at the bottom of the barrel. So let's learn the Baratunura. He gives both pshatim. Says the Baratunura, Noisnim mayim b'Shabbos al gabi shmorim. You're allowed to pour water on Shabbos onto these dregs. Hanasunim b'mishmeres m'ba'od yom, that were placed onto the mishmeres before Shabbos, because you can't strain them actually on Shabbos, but you're allowed to add the water over the dregs on Shabbos. What are you doing it for? Kadei sheyitzlu v'sheyu hashmorim slulin v'yozuv kol yenom. In order that you're getting out the last bits from the dregs, that they should become saturated, and all the wine should flow out of these dregs. Pirush acher, the second pshat is al gabi hashmorim shenisharu b'choves. You're pouring the water into the barrel. There's no mesh on top now. There's just shmorim, dregs at the bottom of the barrel, and you're adding water. And really, what you're doing is diluting the sort of the shmorim and the wine at the bottom of the barrel. Says the Baratunura, Pirush acher al gabi shmorim shenisharu b'choves. You're pouring the water on top of the shmorim at the bottom of the barrel. The koltin hamayim tam hayayin, and the water that you pour in will get a tam, a taste of the wine. And you can then take the water out on Shabbos. And therefore there's no problem of boireh, because really what you're doing is you're simply diluting the wine at the bottom, and then later when you pour it out, you're pouring out the water. You've got to be careful not to, again, do a ma'aser boireh when you extract the water. You're just pouring out the water, you leave a bit of the water there, so therefore there's no problem of boireh. So those are the two pshatim in noisnim mayim al gabi hashmorim b'shvil sheyitzolu. Either it means you're pouring water on top of the dregs which are on top of the mesh, or you're pouring water into the dregs which are at the bottom of the barrel. Continues the Mishnah. Umasananin es hayayin besudrin. You're allowed to filter wine besudrin either through a cloth, uvakfifa mitzris, or some sort of basket, which we'll describe shortly. Now, why are you doing this? So says the Baratunura, you're filtering the wine. Says the Baratunura, because you're getting rid of the sort of the white flour-like substance which is in the wine, and therefore you're allowed to strain it through this cloth on Shabbos, because it's not considered the ma'aser boireh, because you could have drunk the wine beforehand, but you just want to make it even more refined, and you want to strain it again in order to get rid of these white particles. Therefore it's not considered the ma'aser boireh, because you could have drunk it beforehand. It's oichel and oichel before and after. There's not psoiles even. Continues the Baratunura. Besudrin, you can use cloths to strain the wine, but specifically hamyuchad lekach, only cloths which have been designated for this purpose. Why? You don't have to be worried that you might come to squeeze the cloths and to extract the liquid from them. Because generally speaking, there is an issa to saturate a beged on Shabbos. You might come to be soichet, to squeeze the liquid out of the material. But here, since the cover, these cloths, are specifically designated for this purpose, i.e. to strain wine, therefore we're not worried that you're going to come to do an issa of schita. Continues the Baratunura, so long as you don't make some sort of hollow, cavity in the actual cloth, in order to direct the wine to a specific place, b'fi in the mouth of the keli, kadei sheyered hayayin b'madrin, that should come down at a correct angle, because doing that is uvda d'chol. It's the way you would do it during the weekday, and therefore Chazal made certain restrictions that you can't do something on Shabbos which looks like an uvda d'chol. So you can either strain it through this cloth, or b'kfifa mitzvahs. Now what is that? Says the Baratunura, sal ha'osui mitzori hadekel, a basket made out of twigs. This means, imagine you want to strain the wine. So you want to strain it through a basket, like a wickerwork basket, and you place this wickerwork basket in a bowl underneath it. So you've got a bowl, and then you place the basket inside it, and then you pour the wine, and it will sieve through this wicker basket, and it will come through more refined into the bowl underneath it. That's mutter on Shabbos. So, but the Bartanura notes that you've got to be careful that there should not be a gap of one tefach from the bottom of this kfifas mitzvahs, this basket, to the glass underneath it, because then by putting the basket in and making an area of a tefach underneath, you could be making an ohel on Shabbos, which, as we've discussed previously, is problematic. Continues the Mishnah. You're allowed to put an egg into a strainer where there's mustard in there. Now, we're talking about a case where you can't strain mustard on Yom Tov itself. That's proper boira, that's a marake, that's certainly not allowed. But we're talking about a case where it was strained before Shabbos, and there is mustard already at the bottom of the bowl. And all you want to do is to take an egg, to crack it open, and to add it to the mustard through the strainer. Why are you doing that? So the Bartanura explains, because you want to sort of lighten the food. It's a very dark texture, the mustard at the bottom of the bowl, and you want to add an egg to it, and you want to add the yellow of the egg. Now, even though you're separating the yellow and the white, because the yellow will come through, the white won't, that's not considered a ma'aser boira because it's oichel and oichel. Both the white and the yellow can be eaten. You're not separating good from bad. And therefore, the yellow would be added to the mustard at the bottom in order to lighten it or to make it a clearer texture. And therefore, that would be mutter. Continues the Mishnah. V'oisin ein noimlim b'Shabbos. You're allowed to make a noimlim on Shabbos. What is a noimlim? Says the Bartanura, Yinomlim, yain udvash upalpanet. It's a mixture of wine, honey, and pepper. It's a drink they would drink in those days. And says the Tanakama, you can make it with no restriction, however much you want. Rabbi Yehuda, he limits you. He says, b'Shabbos you can't make a sort of a massive amount. On Shabbos, b'kos, you can make one glass at a time. That's all. B'Yontov, on Yontov you're allowed to make more. B'Login you can make a bottle like a flask. That would be allowed. B'Moyed, on Chol HaMoyed, you can make even a larger amount. B'Chovis, you can make a whole barrel's worth of this anoimlim, which is this honeyed wine on Shabbos, or on Chol HaMoyed. Rabbi Tzadok mehakol lefi ha'orchim, it depends. He says, the Tanakama says there's no limit. Rabbi Yehuda says it depends if it's Shabbos, Yom Tov, Chol HaMoyed. Shabbos you can make a kois, Yom Tov a flask, and Moed you can make as a whole chovis. Rabbi Tzadok says it depends on the guests. If you've got a lot of guests, you can make a large amount. If you've got fewer guests, you make a smaller amount. And the Bartanura says the halacha is like the Chachamim. Says the Bartanura at the end, Hakol lefi ha'orchim, im yesh le'orchim merubin oiseh harbe, bein b'Shabbos, bein b'Yontov, bein b'Moed. Others argue and say that he's specifically talking about a Yontov, I think. Yeah, but on Shabbos he would agree. But the Bartanura learns that he's arguing bein b'Shabbos, bein b'Yontov, bein b'Moed. It all depends on the orchim. The halacha to Tanakama concludes the Bartanura. The halacha is like the Tanakama. Sha'osin yenomlim b'Shabbos kafi masha hein roitzin. You can make as much quantity as you desire on Shabbos. That is the end of the second Mishnah of Perek Chof.